Before our story begins, ask yourself a couple questions. First, if you and your spouse operated a law-abiding business, then suddenly found yourself harassed and arrested several times on bogus charges by local law enforcement, 3 of which you and your spouse suffered injuries, and to add insult to injury, the same law enforcement and city officials attempted to destroy your business and its good reputation by running off and arresting your customers without cause, you think it'd piss you off? You know damn well it would. Now, ask yourself, if you got no explanation, no help or accountability from government, what would you do? Hold that thought. The film you're about to see is the story of Freddie and Kay Rodar, their restaurant Friends Pub, and the targeted abuse they've suffered at the hands of Friendswood Police Department at the behest of Friendswood City Council. It's the opinions of the producers of this film that Friendswood government officials have not only trampled on the Rodar civil rights and that of their patrons, but have also engaged in felonious activities meant to enrich themselves through the misuse of local and federal taxpayer dollars while ignoring their elected and sworn duty to serve and protect their community before, during, and after the COVID-19 pandemic. The producers of this film remind its audience that all Friendswood government officials are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Try this on for size. A business owner and his family moved to a small town somewhere in, let's say, South Texas. They're doing well for themselves, and for a while they live a blessed existence. Then one day, the business owner and his family find themselves at odds with the local government. Pretty soon they're under attack from the local sheriff, the mayor, and a corrupt land developer, all trying to run the little business owner out of town for one reason or another, because if for no other reason, they just don't belong around here. Then one day, an obscure stranger rides into town, and all hell breaks loose. Sound familiar? Well, it should. It's pretty much the basis of many classic westerns. And I should know, because in this western, I am that obscure stranger. And trust me when I say, all hell is about to break loose.
Good afternoon, CABC.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Fred Radar. I'm calling from Friends Pub in Friendswood, Texas. One employee told me that you guys called here in regard to a complaint that she had.
Yeah.
Can I talk to the person who called?
Yeah, you're talking to the person.
Okay, what's the complaint about?
The complaint is that y'all were not abiding by the governor's orders.
Okay, is the complaint about from a citizen or is from the police department?
I'm not quite sure.
Okay, what was the complaint exactly about?
Again, not following the governor's orders.
Is that the law or is this a mandate?
Yes, this is what he has stated you have to do.
I understand. Is that the law or is this a mandate?
It is mandated.
So we have to follow a mandate?
Yes, sir.
And what are the consequences if you don't?
If you don't, you can have a 30-day suspension or cancellation of your permit.
So you are enforcing a mandate, not a law.
I'm enforcing the executive governor's orders that have been
You
sent
still
out.
haven't answered my question, ma'am. Is that the law or
Yes.
is this a mandate?
Sir, I've answered the question. It has been answered. It is mandated by the governor.
So you cannot enforce a mandate, ma'am.
Whether you choose to follow the executive order that has been issued out by the governor, we will come out and investigate.
Your agents were here about 3 weeks ago.
Sir, we have to investigate each complaint that comes in, whether it's a substantial complaint or not.
So you're coming here to investigate that?
I don't know. Your manager stated that y'all will not be following the orders.
It's not we're not following the orders, ma'am. We are follow the law. It's not the law. It's a mandate, and we're not going to follow that.
Okay, that's fine, sir. If you choose not to, we have put that information in, and we'll go from there.
Thank you very much for your time, ma'am. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Winners enforce actual laws as they are written. Wieners enforce the laws as they see fit. Winners enforce the laws without regard to race. Wieners enforce the laws inordinately upon minorities. Winners hire a diverse group of police officers, while wieners hire a mostly Caucasian police force. Friendswood Chief of Police may talk like a winner, but he acts like a wiener. And Chief Wieners needs to go. Sign the petition to remove Chief Wieners by visiting removechiefwieners.com.
We are back! This is the Friends Pub in Friendswood, Texas. And this is Freddie Radar, the owner. He's having a great time with his customers, and this is Freddie being arrested by the local Friendswood police.
If you're not going to allow us to do the inspection, I will take you into custody.
Ooh. Wow. And that's just the first arrest. So why did he get arrested? I got just a man to answer it. Let's say hello to Freddie Radar. How did you get in trouble with the Friendswood police? What happened?
Well, by June 26th, when Governor Abbott said all the bars need to be shut down, they thought we are a bar, which we're not. We're a restaurant and bar. And they've been after us to shut us down. So they accuse us of over-serving, which they start pulling over people coming out of my place. They build a case and say, you are over-serving, we're going to come and do a bar check. They did that about 2 or 3 times a day. Finally, me and my beautiful wife right here, we stood up. I said, you're scaring my customers, you need to stop coming here. So that means they said, you're not going to allow us to do any bar check. I said, wait, no. First they arrest my wife. And I said, if you're taking my wife, you better take me too. Asking what's my charges, he said, running your big mouth.
Is there an actual law you broke?
No.
That's the amazing thing.
And a month later, they said, well, the first time we arrested you, you resisted the arrest. No. So we're going to take you one more time for resisting an arrest.
Oh my God. So is this a matter of having bad cops, or is it a matter of having a bad police chief who's telling good cops to do things, or is it a matter of having a bad mayor ask a police chief, or is it a matter of all 3 of them obeying a bad order from the governor?
I think it comes from the city hall.
This kind of sounds like what used to happen to black people like 60 years ago in Georgia, you know, if they went down the wrong road. I'm very serious about that. Does it sound like that to you guys? So what's the future of the Friends Pub now?
I don't know. To be honest with you, we don't know. If they leave us alone, we'll be okay. If not, we'll be done.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, man, we gotta support you guys. If you're out there anywhere near Friendswood, anywhere within 50 miles, stop by for a burger and beer.
That right there, folks, was the day I met my friend, Freddie Radar. After his appearance on the local news and the national comedy show Tommy's Garage, I felt obliged to offer my services as a storyteller and filmmaker to Freddie. After all, I consider myself a pretty fair-minded guy. I put my pants and boots on like most folks. I live a fairly normal life. I'm conservative, socially liberal, but I can't stand politics or most politicians. I'm always willing to put myself out there for a worthy cause, and I always root for the underdog. So I saddled up and rode on out to Friendswood to meet Freddie's family. As a guest in Freddie's home, I witnessed firsthand the love he has for his family and friends, and how that love has been returned tenfold by everyone around him. I even got to see how little difference there was between his culture and your average American or Texan. And his family had plenty to say about him.
He's the kindest person I know. If you have a problem, you could be a family or friend, but you can go to him and he's gonna help you for sure.
My Uncle Freddie, he's the most generous guy I know. Not only with me, but and my family, just the whole Friendswood community.
You know, as far as I know him, he's the most affectionate, generous person here in Friendswood. People love him, and you know, he's been doing a lot of fundraisers here, helping for cancer patients, raising money for them. He's hiring people to help him in a lot of cases.
I have been friends with Fred and his families for quite some time, and they're a very wonderful family, and they're very sweet, kind and caring people, very much family oriented.
My father, Freddie, he's taken care of my grandma for 17 years. He's giving my aunt and uncle both secure jobs. He's putting me, myself, and my cousin, he's helping her through college as well. So whenever you take away that business from him, it's like really kind of hurting our whole family. Like as a unit, it's hurting all of us.
Afterwards, I moseyed on over to Friends Pub to talk to a few of his customers.
I can't say enough about Freddie and Kay, about their character, how they treat each customer. They treat you like you're a friend and you're family, and you become family eventually.
I love Freddie and Kay. We come up here to support them. We have a huge family. We come up here a lot of times with our whole family, bring them up here to eat and hang out. It's just kind of a nice place to come unwind.
I've been coming here for 12 years since they opened. And there's many bars I can go to, but I choose to come here because it's clean. I love the people that work here. I love the owners. I love it all.
This isn't the place to come get trashed. It's more of a hangout. You enjoy your time with your family. You eat some amazing food.
I came to Freddie one day and told him my granddaughter has leukemia. He asked me, why don't we do something? Put a benefit down for us. We raised thousands of dollars for my granddaughter. She's alive today, and we have to raise him and Kay to help with the benefit, the medical bills that he has done for us. Their hearts are huge.
Yes, sir. By this point, I was convinced that Freddie and his wife were straight shooters. So if I was going to tell their story, I needed to know every detail of how they got where they were. For that, I sat down with the man himself and, well, I'll let him put it in his words.
Tell me, I guess let's just start from go. I mean, this whole thing is a shit show. Tell me what the shit show began. How did it start?
The whole thing started with COVID. Middle of March of 2020, there was a shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to shut down. We had no choice. But meanwhile, even in the shutdown, getting calls from the landlord, getting notes from the power company, even from my own state government, I was getting letter, your taxes are late, you have to pay your taxes. They start charging me late fee and penalty fee and everything.
Mm.
It was not only shut down, not having any income, the stress of that was adding up to it. And when they announced that you can open up, we were so excited. Open up and business as normal till the second shutdown. They said all the bars in Texas have to close down. That was by Abbott.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the pressure started from the city of Friendswood. We started getting calls from the city hall.
So you refused to shut down then?
We didn't have to shut down. I mean, they said bars has to shut down. Let me explain the difference between bars and restaurant is if your alcohol sale is 51 and above, that will consider bar.
Right.
But if you have food, you have a kitchen, and your food is 51% and above, you are allowed to stay open.
Okay.
So we're allowed to stay open. And we tried to explain this to the city of Friendswood. They keep calling, hey, you have to shut down. You are a bar, you have to shut down. I said, no, we are not a bar, we are a restaurant. In all the bars, most of the restaurants, everything was shut down in the area.
Yeah.
Okay, we're the only one just open. Because of that, we start getting busy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, that one city of Friendswood really didn't like it that we are open. All of a sudden, we saw some police officer in a business, and they said we're going to do a bar checkup.
Mm-hmm.
Bar check 3 times a day. And they were saying this is a TABC check, TABC inspection. Which I was telling them, hey, if it's TABC inspection, the TABC officer has to be present.
Yeah.
No, it's not necessary. We're going to do 3 times bar check in your bar. And that's where the problem began. I mean, they will show up at lunch, they show up at 10 o'clock, they show up at midnight, standing there, walking around, scaring off everybody, and leave. That's when I talked to my wife and said, hey, they're killing our business.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, gradually you saw, almost nobody in the restaurant. As soon as the police officer shows up, they leave. And me and Kay decided, hey, we're going to stand up. A bar check, I've been in this business for almost 35 years.
Yeah.
I never heard of bar check by police officers. I've been over there for 12 years. I had 2 or 3 TABC inspections.
In 12 years.
In 12 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, bar check by police officers, that was absolutely new to me. Never heard that before.
Yeah.
So that's when we told my wife, hey, tonight they show up, we're going to stand up. We're not going to let them in.
Yeah.
I had a long day and I came home, but I told my wife if they show up, just call me right away. I came home like about 30 minutes later, around 10 o'clock. It was a Monday night. Monday night.
This is the first arrest?
This is the first time, yes.
Okay.
And my wife called me and said, hey, they are here. I said, hold them till I get there. By the time I got there, he was already inside and he was done with his inspection, and he even gave the paper to my wife that everything's okay, we're done with the inspection.
Yeah.
I got there, I said, you guys are killing my business. And this is your intention. That's why you guys coming here to kill my business.
Yeah.
You shut down, but I'm not gonna shut down. And he called the sergeant demand. He came in and he said, I told him, man, there's no more inspection. And he said,
it was done.
It was done, yeah, but I pretty much made it clear to them, no more inspection from this point on. You know?
Yeah.
You guys done with your inspection, leave.
Yeah.
He said, what are you trying to do? I said, I'm asking you to leave. And they said, well, we're not going to leave. And if there's no inspection, we're going to arrest you.
But they did do an inspection.
They're done with the inspection already. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when I turned around and put my hands behind me. I said, go ahead, man, arrest me. I'm tired of this. I'm about to lose my business.
Yeah.
And I stood for a few seconds. They didn't do anything. Kay turned around. I said, arrest me. No more inspection.
Yeah.
And they didn't hesitate, man. They put a handcuff on Kay.
And she's the technical business owner?
Yes. And Officer Mylan grabbed Kay, pushing her out of the place.
Mm-hmm.
And left a lot of marks on her hand, almost bleeding. And that's when I went outside chasing them. I said, hey, listen, you take my wife to jail, you better take me too.
Right.
And that's why he didn't hesitate. He pulled out his handcuff and put it on me, and I turned around and asked him a question. So what are my charges? He grabbed my hands, pushed them off.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm yelling at him, what are my charges? What are my charges? And the charges are running a big mouth.
As far as I know, that's actually not a charge, but okay.
Well, welcome to Friendswood.
Welcome to Friendswood, right? Okay.
First Amendment is against the law here. Freedom of speech, I guess.
Right.
For the next 3 hours, Freddie told me about he and Kay's subsequent arrests, how the city claimed his restaurant was the source of rising DWIs, how he'd been targeted on social media, how on one occasion he'd found a bag of drugs planted in his vehicle after he picked his truck up from an impound lot. And the icing on the cake? Well, he found a noose thrown in the back of his pickup truck's bed. All of this apparently stemming from none other than Friendswood Police Chief Robert Wieners. Now, it's fairly well known in and around Friendswood that Chief Wieners is a retired U.S. Marine who gained notoriety during the Laura Smithers disappearance back in 1997. I wanted to know a little more, so I asked a friend and former police officer who had worked in the area to give me his take on the man, his department, and what he thought of Freddie's situation.
Could you just really quickly qualify yourself as a former police officer?
Yes, I know the area of South Texas, Webster area, Friendswood, Galveston County.
So, could you explain to me what the importance of staying anonymous or the anonymity of this interview?
I'm afraid of retaliation.
Straight up?
Straight retaliation.
Have you ever been threatened or anything like that? Or?
Not verbally, but I know people who have.
What kind of threats?
To their families.
Really? And this is through the Friendswood City Council and Police Department?
Yes.
What do you think about the Friendswood Police Department, Joe?
I believe there's some good officers that work there, but there's bad officers that work there, and I believe the good officers are scared of the bad officers because I believe the bad officers are led by the chief of police.
So you would say that Chief Wiener then rules through fear?
Yes.
Could you give us a little history that you know of Chief Wiener?
He's been a police chief, or been a police officer over 20 years. Part of that, I believe, was in the military. I do know that he rose very quickly through the ranks at Friendswood PD. And I think that some of the stuff he asked certain people in his department are not things that should be done.
So tell us, talk a little bit about his expedient rise to fame and chief of police.
From what I've heard is he started out as just a patrolman and somehow ended up in the administrator's office very quickly within maybe a year or two. And at that point, I just heard that he basically bullied his way up to be the chief of police. So there was a girl that ended up missing back in the late 90s in Friendswood, and she was found a few weeks later. And he took it upon, wasn't even in the city of Friendswood where she was found, but he took it upon himself to pretty much run with the investigation the way he wanted it to be done.
So, you're saying you feel like maybe he took credit or something?
I believe he wanted all of the notoriety of all of it for finding a feather in his hat, per se.
Was he the person who had it?
Not at all.
Do you know who?
Yes.
And they have been subsequently not been given credit?
No.
In your opinion, how would you describe Chief Weiner as a commanding officer of FPD?
I wouldn't really call him a commanding officer.
So how would you characterize the relationship between FPD and Friendswood City Council?
It seems like they both have dirt on each other.
So again, operating fear through fear.
Operating through fear.
In your opinion, then, is FPD as a whole model for best policing practices?
No. Friendswood is a small town. There's not a whole lot of big crime that goes around Friendswood. Again, they do have some good officers here, but the experience they have is nothing compared to like the city of Houston with things that may go on there. They focus on probably more politics than they do the actual law.
Would you consider the pressure applied by Friendswood PD to Friendswood Pub out of the ordinary or extreme?
Oh yeah.
So then, so it would be very out of the ordinary then to have officers in there, let's say 3 times a day for weeks at a time.
Well, that's harassment.
That you characterize as straight up harassment.
Correct.
And where would that authority be coming from?
That's be coming from the top.
Okay, would the top be Chief Weiner, or would it be the city council, or a combination of both?
Probably a combination of both.
As a previous officer, how many TABC and bar checks have you performed in your career?
2 with TABC there. They asked us to come with them.
2. How many years roughly were you a police officer?
Almost 3 decades.
In 30 years, you performed 2 bar checks.
Now, the first-hand knowledge I'd gotten from my buddy only confirmed what I'd suspected about Chief Weiners, his minions within FPD, and his campaign of fear. But I'm a 9th-generation Texan, and I don't scare that easily. And thankfully, neither did Freddie or the other stranger who rode into town shortly after I did, Mr. Wayne Dolcefino.
Walk.
I walk, don't touch
Stop
me.
resisting.
There is no resisting.
Oh my God, dude. Y'all are going overboard, man.
A chaotic scene in August of 2020. Friendswood police arresting the female owner of the Friends Pub.
You need to back off.
Put me on the fucking arrest, dude. Come on. Come on, man. You don't take my wife along. Take me too.
Seeing his wife in handcuffs, husband Freddie Radar wanted to get arrested too. But is that a crime?
What is my charges? What are you charging me with? Stop resisting. Stop resisting.
Not exactly a friendly Friendswood moment.
What are my charges? What are my charges?
The local pub had dared to stay open during the COVID pandemic.
One of the many bars refusing to close after the governor's order, but the owners of this business now have more problems than the coronavirus pandemic.
Defying the selective mandate for bars to close even though they serve food. And they weren't shy about their resistance. Now you will hear why.
We should stand up because, first of all, it's our business, our life, our everything.
Kay Gorbani was battling breast cancer. Her medicine was costing $10,000 a month. Keeping the family business open was, for her, a matter of life and death. It was a battle for freedom, too. Immigrants from the Middle East who had made their home in Friendswood more than a decade ago.
One of the precious things in this country is the freedom and liberty. They were trying to take that away from me.
They fought back on Facebook for 2 years, on billboards. Look at the coasters, the napkin holders inside their bar restaurant. There's a website calling for the removal of the longtime police chief Robert Wieners, and Freddie Radar is responsible for it all.
Sign the petition to remove Chief Wieners by visiting removechiefwieners.com.
There are more than 1,000 signatures. We were asked to examine evidence that Friendswood's police chief has waged a campaign of retaliation against Friends Pub and its owners before and after that August arrest.
I've been arrested 5 times in this town for no reason, sir. My wife been arrested twice. I got 6 citations. Chief Wieners doesn't leave me alone. Who do I need to talk to?
After Friends opened during the pandemic, there was a sudden spike in DWI arrests near the club.
Anybody going out of the shopping center, they were pulling him over. Left and right.
I'm arrested. Take him into custody. He had me lawfully restrained.
What are my charges?
During one lunch hour, Freddie stopped in front of an undercover officer sitting in his truck in front of the pub. Freddie got arrested.
No, what are my charges? Tell me my charges.
Unlawfully restraining me. You would not
Restraining you?
Yes, sir.
What are you doing in my parking lot?
Did you hear what I just said?
Freddie's car was towed. That case, like all the rest so far, have been dismissed. Channel 2 talked to Chief Wieners back then.
During the month of July, we had a total of 33 DWIs. We've been able to attribute 10 to folks that had been patrons at Friends Pub.
Officer Sarah Carter got credit for at least 6 of the 10 DWIs allegedly linked to Friends Pub in that 1 month in July.
I wouldn't say targeted personally. I would say I was targeted because I pulled out a Friends Pub parking lot.
Bridget Moore got a DWI after leaving Friends Pub. It was dismissed along with a bunch of other cases because of a cop with a troubled past.
Officer Carter said in 2017 she pulled people over without probable cause 20 times.
Friendswood police cleared Carter in their own internal investigation and then hit her problematic patrol tactics. She wasn't suspended until 4 years later, only after a Galveston County judge labeled her an unreliable witness after her testimony. Prosecutors dismissed 30 cases right off the bat, including Bridget's alleged DWI.
But I feel like this time you're messing with people's business, you're messing with people's lives. Thankfully, I work for understanding people, but there are a lot of people out there who would have gotten a DWI and lost their jobs, their livelihoods, their families, their houses, whatever.
Folks in Friendswood deserve to know if higher-ups in the Friendswood Police Department ordered Officer Carter to pull over folks for the crime of just leaving Friends Pub. Records from the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission show there have been 36 complaints about Friends Pub since January 1st, 2020. 22 of them at least came from Chief Wieners by name.
And I believe that it was done as a result of the spiraling DWI.
In the last 10 years, the TABC has not cited Friends Pub once for serving alcohol to someone who was intoxicated. And Friendswood police have often entered the bar just to check out the patrons at inspection without anyone from the TABC even coming along. It's fair to ask then, if the TABC doesn't see a problem with Friends Pub, why does Chief Wieners?
Sir, we've been targeted, okay, for the last 6 months. You don't believe me? Ask that officer right there, Sarah Carter.
Chief Wieners won't talk to us. He's ignored our calls. And the city's lawyers have denied every single request we've made to look at body camera videos, emails, even arrest reports. They won't even give us the stats of DWI arrests in Friendswood. That's ridiculous. And Friendswood City Council knows they're hiding the records, because I told them. I simply said, how many DWI arrests do you make in given months? That, according to your lawyers, is confidential. I know of no other city in America where that's confidential.
I am telling you you've been lying, sir.
Well, have a good day.
Okay, wonderful day.
Have a good day.
Freddie is suing the city of Friendswood for civil rights violations and harassment stemming from all his arrests. City taxpayers may end up paying for the police conduct or the misconduct.
What are my charges? What are my charges?
That was cell phone video. Under current Texas law, the cops get to choose what body camera video you get to see. But Friendswood City Council could order the release of the body camera video during all these arrests. It's time to find out once and for all if Chief Wieners ordered a campaign of retaliation against Freddie and his wife And that should start, Mayor Foreman, with a little transparency. Stonewalling our request for public information only makes the city look, well, guilty.
You need to change the way you view these public records requests. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to make these investigations about what you're hiding, right? Let the sun shine in.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Friendswood Chief of Police Wieners has a well-documented history of racial comments. Yet Chief Wieners insists that's not true. So let's examine a couple extra facts. 1. FPD has no African American officers and only a few Hispanic. 90% of all FPD officers are white and male. 2. In a city of 88% whites, 85% of all traffic citations are written to minorities. So Chief Wieners is a flat-out liar. Sign the petition to remove Chief Wieners by visiting removechiefwieners.com. Wayne's last words echoed in my head, because at the end of the day, you don't want to make these investigations about you and what you're hiding. By now, it was obvious that Chief Wieners was acting in accordance with City Hall. Wayne wasn't the only one who tried public records requests and failed. Freddie and I had tried on many occasions to get answers from the city and also gotten nowhere. Freddie tried to meet with Mayor Mike 9 times and was turned away each time. Thinking back to my interview with Freddie, I recall him telling me of another guy who got crossed with city council.
I have a friend of, not a friend, I mean, he's a customer. He becomes my friend now. I know him for a long time. He's been my customer. He owns a golf course right down the street from me.
A golf course?
Shooting range.
Oh, driving range. Okay.
Driving range, yeah. But the land is right next to ballpark that owns by City of Friendswood. His land is right next to
like baseball field,
baseball fields, soccer fields, stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
They're trying to buy his land, and he doesn't want to sell it to the city. Guess what they did? They keep increasing his tax.
Did they do that to everybody around him?
No! Go check the lands around him, and across the street there's a shooting range or something across the street from him. They went off a few cents. But he's from 11 cents went to $4 a square foot.
On a driving range?
On a driving range, yep.
That's a lot of square feet.
Okay. Why? Because they want the land. City of Friendswood wants to buy the land.
Well, that's theft.
Whatever you want to call that, man.
It's theft. I mean, it's the city stealing it from
Mm-hmm.
Taking Freddie's lead, I headed off in the direction of Championship Golf Center to talk to its owner, Mr. Tom Ember. Though a great little driving range, Champion Golf Center is somewhat of an undesirable property, parked between a dog pound, a gun range, a city ball field, and some very tall utilities. Not exactly what a home developer would be interested in, but it's perfect for a driving range. And that's a great little business for a part-time real estate junkie like Tom. So that's what Tom built. With very little overhead, Tom figured he could eke out a couple part-time employee salaries and property taxes, and with any luck, sell it for 10 to 15 times what he bought it for 20 years down the line, and then go buy a bar on a beach somewhere. It's the American dream, right? Well, not exactly, as it turns out. Not for Tom. Tom, walk me through this beginning to end. What happened here?
Well, I bought this back in 2002. A week after I bought it, the city approached me because they wanted it for parks. So I said, sure, I'll sell it to you. You know, I pretty much put it on the market the minute I bought it because that's what it's about. You know, buying it and selling it for more money, you know.
American dream.
It's what I do, you know,
Yeah.
so. But anyway, they approached me and they wanted to know if I'd sell it to them. I said, sure, I'll sell it to them. You know, and so I shot them like a huge number. You know, sure, I'll sell it to you for $6 million or $5 million or whatever. And he's going, yeah, you didn't pay for that. And I go, of course not. But you want to buy it and I don't want to sell it, you know, so that's
Right.
kind of the deal. So, you know, I've offered it to the city before as a triple net lease, and I've tried to, you know, do that several times because they wanted this for soccer fields. Anyway, you know, over the years, no big deal, everything's going along smooth, you know, and then all of a sudden in 2018, my taxes went up 145% in 1 year. None of my neighbors went up, just mine. So I really started aggressively trying to sell it at that point, and I still hadn't been able to sell it. To this day, I've only got one guy that offered $1 million for the whole thing. You know, that's it. So they're telling me it's worth like 2.5 million or whatever it was. And
They're taxing you at a rate of
taxing me
way up there.
yeah,
Multiple million.
yes, right. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. But I'm just pointing out how unfair the system is. They basically just taxed me out of business.
It was obvious that Friendswood City Council had someone within the appraisal district doing them a favor by jacking in with Tom's taxes. But I wasn't here to prove Tom's story. I was here to prove Freddie's. And it was obvious to me that City Council was using FPD to jack with Freddie.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Meet Fred Radar. As a young man, Freddie left Iran for the freedom of the United States and the American dream. Once here, Freddie settled in Friendswood, Texas, began raising a family, and started a successful business. His wife, Kay, and other family members help run their business, Friends Pub. And when you're in Friendswood, locals will tell you Friends Pub is the place to go. Friends Pub is the cleanest, most law-abiding bar and restaurant in Friendswood. Yet, Friendswood City Council seems determined to shut him down and run him out of town.
What are my charges? I'm talking to you.
We ask why, and what we unearthed will shock you. Friendswood City Council's hard at work at something, and that something doesn't include citizens like Freddie or you, but it does involve your money. Welcome to Friendswood. Now, Friendswood Chief of Police Robert Wieners was not acting independently with his campaign to harass Freddie and his wife Kay. Ultimately, he answers to City Council, and they were ordering the chief to arrest the Radars while making up charges later. That's illegal. And let's be honest, if FPD and City Council had real cause to shut down Friends Pub, they could have, legally. Had Freddie and Kay actually been breaking the law, then the city would have every right to send the police in to arrest them and shut down their business. That's just a fact. So the fact that they were harassing Freddie and Kay meant that they didn't have a legitimate reason to arrest them. These are all fascist tactics, and in the United States of America, they're illegal. So this got me thinking, what else was the city of Friendswood doing that was illegal? Well, they seemed really concerned with real estate and flood control issues, so I decided to start poking around there. Mayor Mike and his wife Lori were construction management consultants, and Robert Griffon appeared to be a real estate speculator and developer of sorts. Both seemed to keep arm's length from their projects and obfuscate them through family and multifamily offices. As city council members, they had the city apply for federal bond dollars for flood control projects based on reports written by local experts, and once the money was granted, altered the plans in ways that appeared to do less flood mitigating and more first phase development of future waterfront housing communities towards the entrance of Friendswood. Looking at the area, I noticed that it sat right next to a so-called former Superfund site named Brio. And that's when I was reminded of the word I'd heard so often while I was in Friendswood: cancer. Brio was a former industrial site at the intersection of Beamer and Dixie Farm Road. The 58-acre site had been used to store a variety of toxic sludge containing multiple toxins from styrene and benzene to vinyl chloride and more. Throughout the years, the sludge eroded its containers and leaked into the soil and thus local groundwater, leading to a rash of cancer, deaths, and lawsuits. Eventually, entire neighborhoods were purchased and demolished, and the site became managed by the Brio Site Task Force, a public-private partnership that acted more like a shell company. Today, the site is under the control of PHX International, which lists itself as an employment agency, but also stinks like a shell company, as it maintains nothing more than a phone and a virtual office. You'd think an employment agency would have a website. Brio had been pulled off the national priorities list in 2005, and in 2018 given a clean bill of health by the EPA, though strangely, the final report wasn't signed by the actual director of the Superfund division. Had PHX International Services pulled a fast one and duped the EPA? I had to know, so I grabbed my fishing pole and went fishing for water samples. I took samples above Brio, knowing that the water flowed south, so these samples should be clean, and then I took samples south of it to prove that it was still dirty as hell. Afterwards, I sent them off to be tested while I interviewed a buddy of mine who had actually worked remediating the site to get his thoughts.
I worked for a consulting company that worked for the Brio Task Force, as I understand it, okay? And I worked there between 89 and 90 for 4 to 6 months. And I would say it's one of the worst sites I've been on.
What was your job title exactly?
I was an environmental consultant helper. Our consulting firm was in charge of sampling various wells and determining what kind of monitoring well we would install for the production of removing that soil and making it supposedly safe.
So it's fair to say you were an environmental remediation specialist.
Very good. That's a good way to say it.
So the company that hired your consulting firm, you knew to be Brio Site Task Force, correct?
That is correct.
Did you know them to be a government entity, or were they almost like another privately owned company?
I believe that they were a privately owned firm that was hired to govern the entire operation.
Do you believe that site truly could ever be remediated?
In my opinion, no.
It's that bad?
It was that bad.
Was there anything that you ever witnessed that you would just call, well, let's just say not best practices?
I thought the whole thing was shady. I felt like there was such a lack of integrity that how could a company do this?
During your time there, was it, did you never saw anything finished or completed?
No.
Did you ever feel like that you were being silenced or that there was just an air of secrecy around what you were doing?
It was well known that you are not to talk about this, you will lose your job. They were trying to basically get this job done as quickly as possible and to satisfy the EPA. It was pretty shady. I'd like to say it was pretty shady.
Have you ever seen anything that toxic?
Never. I've never seen anything like it before. I've never seen anything like it since then.
Would you drink any water that came southeast from a well?
Not even a little. That is some toxic ass shit.
Looking shady, I pulled up the first map I could find of the Brio site, and it happened to be from 1983. Figuring I needed a more current map, I searched again and found the latest LiDAR report from 2018. While briefly comparing the two, I happened to notice glaring differences in elevation, especially at the Brio site. While actually at the site one day, I'd seen an old monitoring well from the 90s, which had a 3 to 4 foot inset. It was odd. Was someone doctoring LiDAR? Or had someone not wanted to actually remediate Brio and instead covered it up with 3 to 4 foot layer of soil? I figured the latter. Apparently, someone with access to a lot of dirt and dump trucks must have helped the Brio Site Task Force just cover it up. Perhaps Robert Griffon had a brother-in-law in the business. Hell, Robert may have even gotten taxpayers to buy his brother-in-law new dump trucks to do it, or replace the ones he used. Anyway, LiDAR had been around since the 1960s, and by the 1980s, it was being used for topography maps. But could it be off as much as feet? So I went to Rice University and asked the professor who wrote the report on flood mitigation in Friendswood.
So this is about which report? Refresh?
Okay, so you wrote a report on flood mitigation.
Was this for Friendswood?
For Friendswood?
What if I don't want to be on film?
If you just want to talk to me, we can do that.
Yeah, let's do it that way.
Okay.
All right, so a couple of questions.
Sure.
Because I did that work and we basically recommended, I believe.
You said to widen all the bayous and then take out the bridge at 2351, and that would pretty much do it.
That's basically what we said.
But anyway, so what are detention ponds?
Well, all right, so detention ponds are essentially holes in the ground that are designed to store stormwater and then slowly discharge that.
Okay. Why do people build detention ponds then?
Well, often they build these as you urbanize and as you increase imperviousness, concrete rooftops. So the flows increase over natural conditions, and so the idea is that the ponds be large enough and properly placed so that you have no adverse impact.
So you're basically just widening an area where water would sit and then channeling it slowly?
Yes.
Okay. Rather than put all these detention ponds out there, why would you feel that your proposal was a better one?
Well, in the analysis that we did, the problem in Friendswood is that there's a lot of water that flows into Friendswood. So you would have to add in a really large regional pond in lower Friendswood area.
How large would that have to be?
As I recall, 40 or 50 square miles, 40 square miles maybe, something like that. The whole watershed's about 80. So it's something in that range. And that's about what drained in Gray's Bayou. So that's the size that we're sort of talking about.
Is a developer responsible for offsetting their own construction?
Usually they are as a development proceed. The general approach is to provide no adverse impact. From a flood mitigation standpoint, the analysis we did showed Friendswood is very prone to flooding.
Yeah.
Something even more than ponds.
Do you have an idea what the current flood elevation of Friendswood is?
No, it's low.
What data did you use for the project?
Our project was based upon LiDAR data for flood elevation. Like 2018 LiDAR is excellent. It's an excellent data source.
Have you ever seen the data off as much as feet?
No, that would be a very, very unusual circumstance.
Well, sir, I think that's it.
But what does all this mean? It means someone definitely covered up the Brio site with tons of topsoil. And why? Well, if Friendswood developers were going to develop expensive neighborhoods with picturesque retention ponds offering residents waterfront property, they'd want buyers to believe that their waterfront wasn't filled with vinyl chloride and three-eyed fish. And that, folks, is what Freddie and I believe the criminals running Friendswood intend to do. And they're doing it with your money. Yippers, your tax dollars are being redirected from legitimate flood control projects and instead used to complete first phase development of future neighborhoods that will be built by Robert Griffon and Coastal Bend Property Development or some other company, while he distributes the profits, or rather your tax dollars, amongst those who help him get there. And as soon as all the checks are signed and cashed, he and those that helped him, people like Mike Foreman and his wife, will quietly leave Friendswood to retire someplace a whole lot less toxic. Like I said, they're criminals.
We started out with 72 cases. Some of them they sent me, it wasn't coming from Friend's Pub. The person said they were coming from a friend's house. So he run it by the name Friends, and everything that had Friends on it, he pulled and sent me. And I've been whittling them down to now I'm at 32. At the most, without you saying a word, right now I can only argue 2 of them. We got the rest of this list to go through, but it's not looking good for the police department.
Look at you guys. Look at you. How many police officers in this town wasting the taxpayers' money? What the do you want from my business, man? Go get the criminals. What do you want from me? Instead of chasing criminals, you come and harassing business? What do you want from me, Sarah? It's you. It's you at night shift. Pulling over people for no reason. Just because they're coming out of my place. When are you going to give up? When? You mean racist like your boss? Chief Wieners? I have police officers, they told me he hates us because we are Iranians. And he will take the stand for me. Tell him to stop it because we are Iranian. Let him know I'm not Iranian. I'm proud American. I've been in this country for 40 years, worked my ass off. The uniform you have on is my money, the taxpayers' money. What? I'm not armed, I don't have a gun, nothing. I'm just talking to you guys. I'm sorry?
You're acting very aggressive.
I mean aggressive?
Yes, you're acting very aggressive.
If anybody is aggressive, it's you guys.
Oh, is that right?
Okay, harassing my business? That's what it is. No. I'm not aggressive, I'm pissed off because I'm about to lose my business. A business that I worked for 13 years, that I pay my medical bills, my wife's medical bills with, support my family. You guys trying to put me out of business?
No, nobody is.
And that's you, piece of shit, you hurt my wife during that arrest.
That's right. It's right here.
Yeah. And wait till I see your ass in court.
Go ahead, I'll be there.
I will. You think I'm going to leave you alone? I'm not going to leave you alone, take that badge away from you.
This badge is never going anywhere.
Yeah, we'll see.
What's going on in this town right now with what's, being done to Freddie and Kay and how they're, trying to make an example or whatever it is they're doing, it's unfounded.
Freddie and Kay represent people like us. It's not a big chain, it's not a big corporation. It's about small business, it's about the American dream.
They do everything to support the community, and it's my favorite place.
They do so many things for the community that you don't even know of.
He donates to all kinds of causes. He donates to people that have cancer, that need help with their medical bills. He donates to the police force. He donates to the fire department. He's part of this community, and he makes sure he supports his community. And so we're going to support him.
I don't get it. I don't know why they're doing it. I support our Blue. They do a good job taking care of us. But what they're doing to this pub is something else. Freddie and Kay, if you get to know them, are two of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Immigrants to this country who did it the right way. And they made a life for themselves right here. And to destroy that or try to destroy it for the sake of some type of gain politically, whatever it is, I don't know. It's absolutely ludicrous. But they're my people. I love them both, like family.
There ain't two bigger hearts in Friendswood and a business that I know of.
We love Friends Pub.
What would your life be like if you didn't have a pub?
I don't know. And I'm not going to think about it at all. I don't know.
The totality of your American experience is Friends Pub.
Everything.
Wow.
Friends Pub for me is everything. Everything is my baby, my life, my love, my work, my job, my family. I don't know how to explain that. I'm a people person.
Right.
And I think that's the best thing happened to my whole entire life.
Yeah.
That's Friends Pub.
So tell me how has this affected the business?
Bad. It's people scared to come. Even a lot of people want to support us, but they're scared to come because a lot of people, they're sitting in a parking lot with undercover and they get DWI to a lot of my customers.
The cops are still harassing the bar.
It is. Where I came here, I see freedom. I see happiness. I see everything. Where I diagnosed with cancer, I see people help me. I see a lot of things. I love here, and I enjoy every single day. But unfortunately, Chief Wiener, the city of Friendswood, they ruined my American dream. They ruined my American dream.
Oh, and before I forget, you probably want to know how the water testing turned out. Well, there were toxic levels of all original substances found at the original Brio site. Substances like styrene, benzene, and a few others that I dare not attempt to pronounce, including phenyl chloride. And that's the one that stuck out. There were 18 parts per million. Doesn't really sound like a lot, but EPA standards are 2 parts per billion. So, the water flowing out of Brio, down Clear Creek, throughout Friendswood and into the Gulf of Mexico is 9,000 times more toxic than any allowable standards. Folks, the City Council and Chief Wieners need to go.